What is up, everybody? Josh Tapp here again, and welcome back to the Lucky Titan. And today we are here with a very special guest, Adam Bird from the Heroes Media Group. And this guy, he's got such a cool story. I mean, this guy's a veteran who decided to quit the corporate world to be with his son, to be able to actually go out and build a business of his dreams. And then he's built multiple companies since then. So this guy is really heavily involved in the media space. So podcasting, broadcasting, radio. And for most of you listening to the show, you know how much of an advocate I am for building a podcast. So we're going to talk a lot about that today, but we're also going to get Adam's take on building multiple companies, successful companies. So Adam, say what's up to everybody, and then we'll hop in.
What's up? How y'all doing?
It's exciting, man. Stoked to have you here. It's kind of funny when I ask that question. I know this is a really small tangent, but some people say what's up to me, and some people just say what's up to the ether, right? To the listeners. Like, you might not even have listeners. Just kind of funny.
Well, I appreciate you having me on today. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be a blast, Adam. So my first question for you, and I want to preface this first off because you are a veteran, and so we're going to put this in the context of being somebody who just retired from the military, and we know that there's so many people doing that, and they're stuck, right? Because they're like, okay, do I get an education? Do I step out and start a business? What do I do? And you and I are both huge advocates of build a business, right? The lifestyle is what matters. So putting it into that context, if you had just got out of the military, again, you just got out of the military and you had to start a business that was successful and profitable within 90 days, what type of business would you build and how would you build it within 90 days?
Ooh, that's such a great question because I deal with this with current veterans that are stepping out. On average, it takes about 3 years for somebody to kind of cut their teeth and find out what it is that they really want to do. But if you're coming out and you generally have an idea what you want to do, and for me, it's really find something that you're passionate about. What's the purpose? You have to find your passion, and for me, it's all about the purpose. I got out of the military. It was, okay, I'm going to do a landscaping company. So I went door to door and picked weeds and cleaned up yards. And after 90 days, I had 3 people working for me. And then in the wintertime, we'd do snow removal. So that I had that on and off. And that was more of a kind of a side gig. So I had a couple people running that for me. Another thing that you would do that I would suggest doing if you have an idea with something, maybe white label, like, there's a joke in the veteran community, like, hey, I'm going to get out and I'm going to start a t-shirt company or a coffee company, or, something like that, because there's a lot of that out there, but there's money to be made there. It's just a matter of, it's not always what you know, but who you know. I think the biggest thing is you got a network. And if you've got the network, you can tap into any of that, start a business. And within 90 days, there's no reason why you can't support your family, in my opinion.
I 100% agree. You know what's funny? I love that you mentioned the landscaping thing. I've never had somebody mention that. But so when I was 21, I served a mission for my church. I was gone for 2 years. When you come back, you're like broke as a joke. You have no money. So I wouldn't say it's exactly like the military, but it's kind of that same concept, right? You come home and you're like, freak, now what?
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, well, I'm supposed to go to school. So I started going to school, but I actually started a window washing company. And I'm like,
Right.
I just knocked doors and said, hey, can I wash your windows for $50? And they're like, yes. We ended up making $8,000 in 6 weeks. And I'm like, why am I going to college? Right. And not that I still went to college, I still graduated, but regardless, I love that example because the tenacity of it, right? It's like,
right.
Within 3 weeks, you had 3 employees doing the work for you. You'd figured out, and you were using honestly, like, I don't know how to say this. Like, I'm not trying to make it rude, but like the lowest form of marketing. Like, I'm just going to knock a door, and a simple form of marketing. Like,
if you use a sales analogy, it would be like cold calling, right?
Right.
Kind of the same thing. Door to door, knocking. Hey, can I pick your weeds for you? I mean, that's what it boiled down to. And it wasn't anything. I mean, obviously, I don't do that anymore, but at the time, it served its purpose.
Yeah. And so many people that we work with, I mean, that's the first question. The reason I asked that question to you, Adam, is because so many people get hung up on, well, how do I make enough to just pay the bills? And it's like, stop thinking so complex. I mean, can you lift a shovel, go and dig holes for somebody? I don't know, right? That's what my dad made me do with construction. That's the reason that came to mind. He knows I'm still bitter about that, but but I mean, it's all about saying, okay, how do we get the cash flow? Because like what you did, right? You took the cash flow and then you started leveraging into something that you were truly passionate about. Because I mean, it's pretty hard to get passionate about mowing grass. Let's face it, right?
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people will, and kudos to you, right? I know a guy who's built a $40 million business off of that. Absolutely crazy, right? But you took that and you said, okay, let's build a media agency. You really like the radio. You really liked this sector. So I want to ask you, with you, why do you feel like radio, podcasting, broadcasting is the future? That's one of my big questions.
I got into this by complete accident. I had you asked me 10 years ago if I thought I'd be in the media space, I would have laughed at you. I think it's such an important thing now because of technology. Look at what technology's done. Technology can be bad, sure, but look at the positive things of technology, how we're doing this right now, right? 2 different geographical locations. And everybody's in a hurry. We've become a society that's constantly on the go, right? And you can listen to books, you can listen to podcasts, you can and watch TV on the go. So and here's the thing with podcasting, as long as it's been around, it started around 2004 timeframe, right? I don't even think we're at the tip of the iceberg. I still think we're about 4 or 5 years ahead of what podcasting really has the potential to be. That's why I got into it when I did.
I love that. And I completely agree. I was just talking with a guy on Monday. No, it was Tuesday. It was on my birthday. It was a great birthday present. Happy late birthday to me, right? But he was talking about that same thing with podcasting. People are asking like, well, is it a saturated niche? The reality is that in the US, there's a lot of podcasts.
Right.
But in all of these other English speaking countries, nobody even knows about it yet. Right. It's barely coming into these sectors. He was talking really heavily about India. He talks about, there's like a fourth of the world's population lives in India, or
right.
whatever it is, right? And he's like, 99% of them are fluent English speakers and will listen to things in English over doing something in their native tongue, right? And so like the market is just so available, first off. So I want to ask you this, especially because you work with a lot of people who are those up and comers. What's kind of your big recommendation for them as far as launching a great show, but also monetizing that show?
So the first thing you have to do is you got to start. Stop thinking about it. Do it. If you're going to do it, do it. And come up with a game plan. Have a list of questions. Know what the basis of the show wants, what you want to talk about. At the same time, you have to be flexible. You could have a list of 10 questions and get through them in 15 minutes, and you got an hour-long show, and then you're like, well, shoot, what am I supposed to do for the next 45 minutes, right? Like,
right. Yep, I know that.
Guilty. It's happened. But you might have a list of 10 questions, and you're 50 minutes into it, and you've talked about 2 things. That's okay. That you have to be flexible with it. So understand what it is that you want to talk about. Have a ton of topics that you can talk. I say write out a list of 10 topics that you could do 10 episodes right now. If you want to do a podcast, you should sit down and you should be able to write out 10 episodes that you want to talk about. Do that. And what was the second part of the question? Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. How would you monetize it?
The first thing you got to do is you got to tell people about it. Tell your friends, tell your network. And if you have a network, like, listen, I'm not Joe Rogan or Adam Carolla or anything like that. So nobody knows who Adam Bird is, really. So I have to tell my network and whatnot, and then tell people, hey, you can sponsor this. If you do segments, you can sponsor this segment for $250, or you could sponsor the entire show for $1,000 for the month, and this gives you X, Y, and Z. Create a package that you want to do and offer that to people. If they bite on it, great. If they don't, see how many no's you get before you get that yes, and then make your adjustments accordingly, and then just keep going it. Keep doing it from there.
Yeah, I love that. It's so funny to watch. People just overcomplicate it. Like you said, just do it. Yeah. Just start it. Because the reality is, especially when you're doing podcasting, nobody listens to your show. Nobody does. Yeah. We get top 50 podcaster on accident. And it wasn't because of our download numbers. It was because we went out and we promoted like crazy. We're putting it everywhere.
if you think you're going to start a podcast, where nobody knows you and you're going to get 100,000 listeners, bless your heart. That's
Game over.
it's not going to happen, and it's so easy to do podcasts now. And a lot of people, I think, are afraid to start podcasts. They're like, oh, I need all the equipment, this and that. Like, obviously my setup's different because, well, I've been doing it for about a decade. You know what I mean? Most people, I tell them, listen, these smartphones, they work amazing. Everybody's constantly on them. Start recording yourself, start practicing. Look in the mirror. I used to look in the, I can't believe I'm saying this. I used to stand in front of the mirror and talk to myself just to practice because I wasn't good at speaking at that time. It takes practice.
So, what's funny is for me, that would have made me so nervous. I couldn't have done that. I had to practice on other people, because I agree. I think your method works. Stay in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
For some people, that helps them break that confidence barrier because you just have to laugh at yourself. Right. It's like nobody likes their voice on audio. No, nobody likes watching themselves on camera, right?
And you're doing this, and I always joke on my show, I got the face for radio. So it's like, so the fact that this is going on right now is, yeah.
I know this is dumb. People say that to me all the time, and I just barely understood that joke. It's taking me years to understand that joke. Wow. Okay. Random.
Sorry, I don't know.
Sorry, you're dumb, Josh. That's funny. Well, yeah. See, and I love that though. You do have a good radio voice, though. But people tell me that all the time. You have a great radio voice. And I'm like, no, I sound like I have a cold all the time. I hate listening to myself. But what comes across, what people think, like when people say you have a great radio voice, it's because you tried. It has nothing to do with your voice, right? Unless you're, Morgan Freeman or Liam Neeson, right? That's because they have the voice of God. So, and I love that. And I love the monetization strategy and everything too, right? Because the big thing is, this is what I recommend to people. A podcast isn't meant to be your primary monetary source. It's meant to make you look amazing. Yeah. People think they have to write a book in order to get into the boys club. I think that a podcast gets you in, and it takes you like 2 minutes. Pull up Anchor.fm and you're done.
It's added value to whatever it is that you're doing right now.
Right.
That's it. That's all it should be. If you want to monetize it, great, monetize it. I've had shows that I've done in the past where I was making a few thousand. It paid my mortgage. The show paid my mortgage. And that was the purpose of the show, quite frankly. My current show that I have right now, I'm not monetizing because that's not the purpose. That's not what I just don't have time. I got my hands in other things.
Right.
And it's not important to me. And that's okay too. But if you want to monetize it, then you have to. The big thing is don't be afraid to ask for it. You can't be afraid to ask for the money to do a sponsor, this and that. There are mom and pop stores out there that want to get their name out. And if you have a platform and you have a voice, people will pay the money to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And the reality, it's like, I'm actually not a huge advocate of sponsorship as a monetization strategy, but it's not because it doesn't work, right? Like, I genuinely think for a lot of, like you're saying, it's a great way for you to just bring in little bits of money here or there. But yeah, cool stuff. So I want to kind of change gears here a little bit though. We are already coming up. We're past the halfway point. So it's a good interview, obviously, because time's going by fast. So for you, Adam, you decided to start another business in November of last year. And that's not even why you're here on the show, but I want to mention it because it's such a cool thing, because you're one of those people that you're following a passion. And anytime you have a new passion, you're like, I'm just going to build a business around it, which I highly advocate for. So tell us a little bit about your new company.
So I started a beverage company called HMG Beverage, and it ties in with the Heroes side of things. It's basically Heroes Media Group, just abbreviated. So HMG Beverage. I've had a coffee line for about 4 years. Never did anything with it. I'm a huge coffee drinker. My roaster came to me and said, hey, are you ready to expand your coffee line into other things? I was like, yeah, this is my idea. Let's do this. And he's like, done. So we did it. And I was like, all right, well, I don't want to run it under the media side of it. Now let's switch this over and just create a whole nother side, because in May of this year, we will have our spirit line is coming out. We'll have a gin and a bourbon coming out. So we'll have coffee, we'll have gin, bourbon, and then we also have cigars. We got our own custom cigars that are being rolled, and we'll be able to sell those here hopefully next month. as well. So that was kind of a passion of mine, but and the purpose of that side of it was proceeds of every purchase is going to go back into the heroes community. So maybe you're a teacher that is falling on hard times. Great. Gotcha. Or you're a law enforcement officer and, you're falling short on hard time. Boom. Gotcha. Of course, veterans, being a vet myself, we're always going to watch out for our brothers and sisters in arms. So that was kind of the purpose of the beverage company was kind of creating that. There's more to the HMG and the heroes line coming down the road. Eventually we'll have the foundation up that we're creating. But really what we're trying to do is kind of create a whole ecosystem for the heroes community. I think teachers and our law enforcement, particularly our law enforcement, not to get political, if you look at the last couple of years, they've kind of had a rough rap, but they're also the ones that are putting on a uniform and they're protecting us every day. Our brothers and sisters that are in the military, there's a lot of great organizations that I am blessed that I know and that I get to work with and we donate to. And I'm honored to say that. We want to help those organizations out so they can continue to help the veteran community and stuff as well. So that's kind of the purpose behind HMG Beverage.
So, I love that. And that's the thing is like, you're building it around something it's such an important issue. First off, I remember I was telling you this beforehand, but one of my first interviews on our show was a guy who was a retired veteran. His entire business was built around helping other veterans get a living through entrepreneurship. And I love that because I did not understand how high the suicide rate was with returning vets and the depression rates and everything. And it's like, man, these people need help. And a lot of them aren't going to ask for it, right? So you got to make sure you're out there creating opportunities for people so that they can make the decisions right. to solve that problem for themselves. So I love that. I also want to highlight this about the journey as well, because it's so cool to watch. Like you said, you found an interest that you had for yourself, and you said, hey, let's build a business around it. And all you have to do is model Gary Vaynerchuk, right? That's he's the one who has blown up that space. Or Matthew McConaughey. That guy has been doing one of the biggest podcast tours I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Anyways, to sell his bourbon, I think is what he sells. But really, really cool stuff. So I think it's awesome that you've decided to kind of step out and do that yourself. So coming back to the HGM, right? So the Heroes Media Group. I'm super dyslexic sometimes. With this group, what you offer to people is to basically help them run these shows for them, right? Is like helping them at a low cost option for these people who really want to get into this space. So can you tell us a little bit more about like your service and what you do?
So we offer a hosting plan. We offer consulting. How to get started. We offer an editing service. So for podcasters, we have really what it boils down to is hosting and editing. We can edit your podcast. We also do, whether it's audio, video, we can even do transcription for you. Maybe you're an author and you want to do an audiobook. We do all the production side for audiobooks as well. We have a couple of talents if you need a talent to read your book. Or maybe you're an author that's finished your manuscript and want it published. That's something else that we offer as well.
I love that. It's honestly, this is one of those things, especially, it's not even just for veterans, but for those heroes, right? The firefighters, the police officers, and everything in between, even new entrepreneurs, right? It's all about like, how do you get into this industry quickly? And for a lot of you, if money is an issue, this is a great place to start, is to go work with Adam. So Adam, can you let us know first off where to connect with you?
Yeah. You can find us on social media at Heroes Media GRP. That's a tag on all the social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. You can also find me on those at Mr. Adam Bird as well. And then our website at heroesmediagroup.com.
Love it. So make sure you go check him out over there, guys. We'll make all the links here in the show notes. And if you're watching the video, it'll be somewhere around here as well. So you'll be able to actually go and check out the content there. So Adam, one final question for you to wrap this up. So if you could give one final parting piece of guidance to our audience, what would that be?
Jump.
Love it. Can you delve into that a little bit? I'm just curious. Jump into what?
Listen, you got two options, right? You can either stand on the street corner and watch life pass you by, or you can jump and take that step and hold on to and start getting the things that you want. Because if you look at the palm of your hand and you hold it up like this, everything that you want in life is right here in the palm of your hand. All you got to do is grab it. But most people won't grab it, and most people stand on the sideline and just watch life pass you by. You'll never know what you could have had unless you take that first step and jump.